Hi, folks. Welcome back to The Human Element. I'm Nick Stevens, and in this episode, my second episode, I spoke with my friend Willem from Ashby. Ashby is an applicant tracking system. So if you're in the recruitment world or you do a lot of hiring, you'll be familiar with an ATS. I chose Ashby as my applicant tracking system of choice. And we dive into why that decision was made, what sets Ashby apart, and the human beings behind the code. As always, I hope you enjoy. So to jump in, I think it's a funny story how I actually connected with you in the first place. It was on another platform, and I was in the market looking for an applicant tracking system, which you wouldn't have known at the time. And it was just a compelling story. Like I'd done a lot of research around different ATS options, and I'd been in the fortunate position of being able to go and choose the best tool that I felt would be, best suited to the position. And I remember that when I reached out to you and we chatted one-on-one, what really struck me is that you said to me that Ashby is like the thing for a startup. And I understand now that I've been using Ashby for, 8-10 months or so, why that is. But in your words, why did you say that? Like, what did you mean by that?
I think it's mostly because the emphasis on people is very like startup is obviously seen as like small, but I think startups could also be 500 people, by the way. But it's more kind of like, putting talent at the core of your business, or at least the desire to do so. And especially the acquisition of talent, but also the retention. But like, I think the thing that we focus on is obviously, being that you become really, really good at the acquisition part, and give you the plethora of tools that you've been using. And I think not all tools that are out there will set you up to, either get that seat at the table or like hone in on the seat at the table that you already have with C-level. Like recruitment still is sometimes seen as kind of like a nuisance, or like us, we have to hire some people. I think with great tooling, you can, really impress the people that are maybe, not that emphasized on recruitment yet. I think that's what Ashby can really give you if you use our reporting and then the sourcing and the scheduling like all in one. That's what most startups desire, I guess.
And the sort of customizability, if that's a word, of it as well, that you can really make it your own. It can totally mirror the work processes that you have in place already and optimize and make it super efficient. But I like what you're saying there to do with impressing the other stakeholders, because it's an environment that you invite different team members to, right? And if you can show them what it's capable of and how simple the recruitment can be for them as a result of using a tool like this, then you get their buy-in for sure. Okay, so let's chat about you for a sec. You've been in tech recruitment for over a decade, it looks like. You're not the easiest person to research. You don't even put a title.
No, I'm not so big on titles, that's true.
Yeah,
I don't really like titles.
Okay, so well, how would you sort of explain what your role is at Ashby then?
My role is pretty snowflake, so I touch a lot of things. Basically I do, and this is also the role that I most enjoy also in my whole career, is kind of like where I can influence the most important task at hand. At Ashby currently, that means kind of like 80% of my time is spending time with prospects, customers, with my peers, really to show them kind of like what Ashby could do for them, and as it has done for me, because I was one of the earliest, I think it was customer number 8 or something with Ashby back in the days. So yeah, I do a lot of demos, and it's shifting a little bit more to more community, doing these kind of speaking opportunities. I do my fair share of speaking, but like we're getting more out there, and I think the sales process, although I really love it, can also be done by very good kind of like go-to-market people. And my forte is really in I can demo the product very well, but like the sales aspect is a little bit
Some people are born to do it, right? It doesn't have to be everybody's superpower, but
I sold it to you, so that's I call that a win, and I've been really enjoying it. But like Ashby, like a year ago when we chatted, we were still in stealth. I think we didn't even have a website, or we maybe just launched it. So back then my role was very like being a head of TA and then selling the product that was really really nice and really made impact. Fast forward to today, we're quickly becoming the status quo, or like at least we're getting our seat at the table in the ecosystem. So having a head of TA selling the product is nice, but it's not going to be game changing anymore. So I'm looking forward to the next Snowflake arm I can put myself into.
Dive into. And then what was it that got you from being customer number 8 to actually working within Ashby?
Yeah, basically the moment I met Benji and a Beacon, when like I was the prime suspect, right? I used like the status quo tooling. I bought a lot of tools on top of my ATS to get the job done. I was always very like my biggest pet peeve was always with analytics. I always had to rely on data engineering teams to build my Tableau or Looker dashboards. When Benji showed me the BI model that we've built into Ashby, I was already sold. I was like, okay, this if you can build this into your ATS, like the ATS will come, and let's partner on that together. So I kept my head at TA role at Vermove, while also basically designing or partnering with the Ashby engineering team, to build some of the ATS features. And I loved that journey. That was 6 months or 9 months or something. Loved that so much that I already told Benji back then, like, hey, whenever EMEA or like Europe is becoming a thing, like hit me up. I'll gladly drop my head of talent boots and throw them
jump
in
into you guys.
yeah, and jump into kind of like a rocket ship journey. So yeah, for me it was already. I think if you're in an IC recruiter, like to me it was kind of like the same thing. I would normally join a company, Series E, Series B, or Series A, B funding, and then scale them and do my thing. Had done that then like 5 or 6 times, and I wanted something new as well, right? I think it's like you have to reinvent yourself, and also for instance, being on the demoing side of Ashby, I think that I learned a ton of new skills, like our VP of Sales, Mike, who took me under his wing. Really, kind of like I had a manager again, right? Like somebody who would teach me the sales craft. I think that's that's what a career is all about, right? It's not about. That's also why I'm not big on titles. I think it's about learning, and I definitely learned some new stuff there as well. So it's kind of like a combination of a product that I loved, that I helped build, learning new things, and I guess just I've always been HR tech nut, right? So
it's cool. It's like because you had the recruiter mindset and you bumped up against these limitations, and you're always getting having to get data engineers to build the thing that you needed. You then got to move across and actually be. I call myself a talent architect on LinkedIn just for fun, right? Yes. Like a nod to the software architects, and that's what you've become, in the sense that could be one of the titles that you've had at Ashby, right? It's like bringing that knowledge and information as a technical recruiter to the team, building this tool, like how to do that in an ideal way for recruiters out there to use. Fantastic. Okay, yep. So one of my favorite questions for recruiters is, how did you get into recruitment? Because nobody ever goes to school or university and thinks they're going to become a recruiter. So how did it happen for you?
I think it happened because I've always been a computer nerd. I was having a general entry job at my first company, kind of like, just filling in spreadsheets and like doing, things you do when you're 22 or something, like first job out of school. And I heard the HR manager chat with a developer, and, it's not classic JavaScript, the difference, but like it was kind of like, hey, I've always been very techy, kind of like I did my own development and like I would build websites, etc. So I felt quite at ease. I told her like, hey, maybe I can help you, kind of like, help you with the interviews, etc. And then I found out that there was a pretty big gap when it comes to like the traditional people team and the hiring of technical people. Like there was a big disconnect.
Massive.
And I basically jumped into that disconnect. So,
acts as a bridge between the two, right? Like if you have some technical
I could
understanding.
use my social skills and my technical skills. And I think technical recruitment was becoming more and more of a thing. Like the movement to like in-house teams was basically all not there yet, right? Everything was agency still, and like recruiters were like rarely in-house, and I was like really like, or like HR was doing a little bit of recruitment, and I really advocated for a recruitment role that's central in the organization. I think that's what I like, because I did HR stuff, right? But like for me, the acquisition part is just, that's very interesting. I think it's interesting to get into the product, or like into the company. That's what I really wanted to specialize on. And then you had like, GitHub was new, and like, sourcing on sourcing engineers on places where I was already at home, right? That was the stuff that was really really interesting. So it was kind of like, seeing a seeing HR for what it, like, I saw HR not as like a thing from recruitment to like the offboarding, really. I really wanted to specialize on that recruitment bit, and that company gave me that opportunity.
Amazing. Yeah, it's interesting over the past like 10 years in particular, because I've also been doing this for quite a while, how recruitment has become more and more of an integral piece to any business. It's almost in a lot of companies, it's becoming more of a strategic thing. Like if you become a specialist in this space, you're able to say, well, hey guys, we kind of need to resource over there because this could potentially solve the problem or the challenge that we're facing at the moment. Whereas before it was a case of, hiring managers or whichever stakeholders coming to HR and saying, we need some people. Now the recruiters need to be deeply embedded in the business to understand exactly the nuances of the type of person that needs to be brought in, skills, soft skills, technical skills, and so on. So yeah, I hear you. Okay, so I'm sorry.
No, I agree. Kind of like the change of kind of like just putting bums in seat to being more a more strategic person. I think, there's a scala of, or there's a range, or like a spectrum, right, of companies, and some are still terrible, and they just, they don't really care about recruitment. But there are more and more companies. That's also why I like the startup space, is because people and talent is one of your products, really. I think that's why recruitment in that ecosystem is just, has boomed as well, right? Like that's why there's so much tooling and so much there's all the, think about Google, right? They hiring the best people was one of the reasons why they won, at least, right? I think that's the all companies that have
in a
won.
different place.
They focused on recruitment early on. They knew that was the most important thing.
It's the people that are making the products. So you get the good people, you get the good products, and so on. Okay, so just to jump back to Ashby now, you obviously had experience with other applicant tracking systems, and you'd bumped up against your limitations. We spoke about that. What are the key things you think that differentiate Ashby from other applicant tracking systems? I mean, I can name a few myself. I love how many integrations plug in seamlessly. I love the scheduling aspect. That's super quick and easy. That's pretty much one of the big boxes that was ticked for me. It's probably such a basic thing to you guys, but it at the time when I joined Ashby, that was like, I can just do it all in one place. That's so cool, and I also love how just every email that's sent out is populated within Ashby as well as in my inbox. Like I don't have to move environments, like it's all there. So that's been super cool. What else do you think sets Ashby apart?
I think basically you hit you hit home there. For me, it's kind of like the single source of truth, right? Us recruiters, we're used to having a lot of disjointed tooling, and we're okay with it. We were fine with it.
That's all we had, because we didn't have an option, right?
Exactly. But it introduced a lot of headaches, right? And I think that's, we at least take like 5 pillars, like the sourcing aspect. So being able to outbound, being able to sequence, have that like deep Google Workspace integration, so we can, automate that, we can automate the messaging, and like having that sourcing tool in your ATS is game changing. I've always been heavy sourcer, so very, very important to me to be able to manage my leads or my top of funnel or whatever you want to call it in my ATS instead of a separate product. I think you say like the Google integration, and now also the Microsoft integration is pivotal, right? So the ability to have that, to not be stuck in I need to do my email somewhere else and it doesn't sync, and you don't know what's happened with the candidate. I think that's game changing. I'm not sure if you tried it already, but we also have direct like two-way sync on our Google Calendar. So if you move something in on your Google Calendar, an interview, it reflects in Ashby as well. That's also something that other ATSs don't do because they don't have that deep Google Workspace integration. That's also why there's tooling out there where you pay a hefty fine for just doing scheduling, like more complex scheduling stuff, which we also have. Right? We have the ability, because of that Google Workspace integration, to pull any user into a panel and make more complex kind of like scheduling logic happen. And then obviously analytics is the thing that I think for most people, if they've heard about Ashby, they know that we have great analytics, and that's because Benji and Abik, they really started, like they've been hiring managers themselves, and they've had this pain themselves when they wanted to, in other products, kind of like report on it. It's like very stale reporting, right? There are reports, but you can't really edit them. You can't really modify them to your needs, right? It's always, and if you want that, you need to export it all into a data warehouse and then have your data engineers do it, right? And that is not great because you want to do it yourself. And Ashby has this, BI component built into Ashby, and it's at the core of the product, right? So really, like the ATS is built on top of that BI model, which makes it super easy to slice and dice across many metrics, etc. So I think those four components, having that all in one tool where you would normally shop for 5 tools, for me as a head of TA was like, I was sold immediately because this was my my problem was always having multiple tools, or I would fix it with manual work, right? I had people, like if we weren't allowed to buy tooling, we would just fix it with
it yourself.
People.
Yeah,
but with people, you'd hire people to do the scheduling. Like the recruitment coordinator is basically a product of like the ATS is not having great scheduling in there. Well, where we see is when people who have RCs, recruitment coordinators, we call them RCs, they, when using Ashby, they can be way more strategic. They become more rack ups, right? They become more, let's analyze the recruitment process. Let's, where are people stuck? Instead of like just scheduling the whole time, they can, we free their time up. Obviously they'll do some scheduling still, but they're not limited. They don't need to do manual things anymore. And we free their time up to do reporting and to help the team, or they maybe can help with sourcing. So it's just a paradigm shift as well with it, which I think was very needed in the talent ecosystem as well.
So speaking of paradigm shifts, AI drops in November 2022, somewhere around there. And like I said before, I love that Ashby integrates so well with all of these other AI tools. Is there any conversations going on in-house at Ashby to do with building AI into the system? And if so, what does that look like?
Yeah, so we already have one component, which is the we have an AI token that you can put in your sequences or in your outbound messages. So basically, we can basically generate or build a little bit of the outbound message when you do your sequencing or messaging to your prospects, which is nice. But what I'm really excited about is the more, like, I think where AI can be really of benefit is, for instance, you've seen our reporting, right? It would be great if you can say, like, I want a pass-through rate, like more conversational, right? You say to the machine, like, I want a pass-through rate report sliced in this department over this time, and instead of building it yourself and going into Ashby and selecting on everything, the AI will build it for you, right? That's what we're working on.
That's cool.
Which is I think that those kind of things will make like a lot of impact, right? So not everybody is like very, like, I also had a learning curve when I needed to build reports in a new way, right? I think
Ask the bot to do it.
Now you can ask the AI to build it for you, and then you're off to the races. I think that's what AI can help with, right? Build something and then you can build on top of that. And yeah, we're also dabbling on, like, for instance, like, rejection, like timely rejections and rejections after an interview. Like, obviously, if you're using Ashby in the way that it's intended, you'll have feedback and feedback forms filled in. And how nice would it be if you could, you get kind of like a templatized, archive or email, like rejection template for that specific candidate on why we're not progressing with them based on the actual feedback in the feedback forms.
Very cool.
I think that's where AI can be very very influential in
very powerful.
in people products at large.
For sure. Okay. I love that. Okay. So it sounds like you guys have gone from strength to strength over the years, 5 years of plugging away around that, right? Ashby, how old are you
Yeah,
guys?
Benji and the Beak started 2018. That was just two of them. 2020 is when I joined. Yeah, so roughly 5 years, and we've been out of stealth only for 1 year. So we really started building, like we were in stealth. We were not the best kept secret, but
Mm-hmm.
we didn't really actively go out to market. Mainly because we wanted feature parity with some of the products that are out there already. And then yeah, last September, so we're almost 1 year out of stealth. Over 800 customers now.
That's
Nicely spread
fantastic.
between
But
EMEA
yeah,
and America.
800
So I think that's also
customers.
nice.
That's great. And some of the challenges, some of the stuff that's been super challenging for
Yeah.
you guys along the way.
Well, obviously, an ATS is a core system. Um,
Yeah.
it's a big change project. So, hammering down on like why the change is required, right? So I think it's 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 easier to sustain the status quo, kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
don't change, right? Because change is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the macroeconomic environment shifted, like it was like obviously startup hiring was insane, and then obviously things changed for being way more diligent, and yeah, that was a period of like, oh, what's going to happen with the ATS, or like, but still hiring is always a key focal point. So
Mm-hmm.
we've been like, I think I really like actually building and coming to market in a less like more of a bearish market, because
Mm-hmm.
you can really validate if your product is actually product market fit or if it's just
Mm.
right. So I think that even though it had hardships, right, and we had a lot of teams that were reduced in force, and we had some churn like any other company, because hiring just froze, or like people weren't hiring anymore. I think
Mm-hmm.
it made us better as a team as well, right? Overcoming that. And I think challenges, hiring is always a challenge. Like even for a company that builds, builds hiring software, we hiring ourselves is always like,
That's quite cute, actually. Yeah, like because you guys know the importance more than anybody, really, of well, you know the importance of hiring the right person. So yeah, putting high
yeah, but
value
still, like
on the
hiring
right
is a
fit.
is a it's not a binary thing to do, right? There's two people or multiple people involved. There's time, like
Yeah.
such a complex problem to solve. So in any company, it's difficult. And we've recently hired Jim Miller, who's the VP of talent. So we have a little bit more structure, and because like how we used to do this, like hiring was like everybody chipped in a little bit, right? Everybody knew how, like we were all working for a company building HR tech or like hiring tech. So we all knew how to hire, but like nobody really owned it. And now with
Mm.
Jim being here, it's actually it's being prioritized, and we're all also building our own best practices into our own hiring journeys, which is great to see. But yeah, just hiring people, like good engineers, good sales, good, like any, like everybody has difficulties with this, I guess. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we had our fair share of that as well.
I got you. Okay, so what's the big vision for Ashby? What's like the impact that you guys most want Ashby to make for on the recruitment community?
Yeah, I think the first step for us is really enabling that hiring excellence, kind of like that's what we believe in, right? Hiring excellence at the core of your organization, and by great tooling, like ours. um you We want to enable these ambitious teams to get hiring on the a seat at the table, right? That's the big goal. We like there, like again, a spectrum. Like there are teams that have very sophisticated rec ops teams, and like people that like recruiting is very, very, very important. And I think we want to make that the status quo, right? That recruitment is a thing of its own. Obviously there's tons to build. Like you've seen like how much we ship, but we ship because there's there's so much we can improve, right? So we'll stay focused on the talent acquisition for
Mm-hmm.
quite some time,
Mm-hmm.
because there's still a lot of lots to fix for, breadth of the product. But yeah, I think, thinking about post hire, there's also a ton of, improvements to be made there. So we're thinking about that. Yeah, the grand goal is to just, be the status quo in terms of your, like when people think about hiring software and sophistication, have that, that people think about Ashby, and yeah,
I love
and
those
from
words,
there,
excellence and sophistication. That's great. Love
yeah,
those words
and I
to
think that's
describe
what
it.
we do allow for it, right? I think, if you look at some of the reviews, like, people are like, C-level is always very impressed when, the talent leaders who made the choice to go for Ashby, start driving those reports home and like update, like, because that's what we've never been able to do, right? We've
Mm-hmm.
always, I remember my days of
Mm-hmm.
like crunching reports on Excel, and then I would spend a day on it and present it to C-level, and then C-level would be like, yeah, this is nice, but what about if we visualize it like this? And then I would be, I wouldn't be able to build
I
on the
don't know
fly. I
how
would
to
go
do
back, like,
data visualizations.
yeah. And I think just being like, I like to think about it as, sales and marketing, and like, those verticals have really gotten their tooling and their dashboarding, and they're
Mm-hmm.
strategic. And I think that's what we're enabling for recruitment teams, right? Like being able
Mm-hmm.
to, when this VP of sales presents a nice dashboard around sales metrics and all that stuff, that the head of TA or the VP of talent or the chief people officer can, build that, like, trust within that community, that, brings hiring to another level, and also that it's adopted also by, the whole organization, instead of like being a little bit siloed, which
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately it still is sometimes, right? For most companies, like
Mm-hmm.
recruitment is something like, oh yeah,
But then maybe less so when you can show up with the information that actually
exactly.
has an impact. Yeah, for sure. And you're inspiring me as well, because I don't think I've taken a deep dive into the reporting side of Ashby, and it's been really interesting to me. And I think this speaks to, for most recruiters in any ATS, is that, well, good ones, is that you can go further and further and further. It's like you're constantly refining and exploring this tool, and I certainly haven't got to the boundaries of Ashby. And I think my next one is going to be to dive into the reporting,
Nice.
because my reports are very basic, and it sounds to me like I should spend some time there. It sounds like a lot of value. One other thing I want to add to, just in terms of feedback, I have said it to you, I think, but a real differentiator for me has been your support team, because they
Yeah.
are so responsive. And that is not the case with a lot of these, with any tech tool. A lot of the time it's like, no, it's intuitive, you click there, whatever, and you're left to your own devices. And it's such a complex environment to acquaint yourself with when you start out. Like, there's just so many options, there's so many different
Yeah.
ways that you can do things. And I really have felt like my hand was held, with little
Yes.
little videos. No, this is how you do it next, like super personalized. So that's been lovely. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it from me. Is there anything else that you wanted me to ask you?
Well, I think, thanks for shouting out to support. I think it's, one of the things that is often overlooked. But we care a lot about, like, obviously, because Ashby is a complex tool, right? It's basically 4 products into one product. So we know that there is a learning curve, and we have the support team, to help things out. And indeed, like, we love personalization, and, we want to make our customers feel that they're, we don't want to send them like general help stuff. Like, often we actually make those looms. So I'm happy that you
Yeah, I've asked for a couple. I've actually got a little archive of them in my email, because I sometimes I need to come back to them. Because there's so many different things that we do as recruiters within an applicant tracking system. I might, because I'm getting old now, I might forget like how I did something before, and just need to jump back in and watch the loom again. But yeah, no, they've been massively responsive, and that's been awesome. It's been a very positive experience end to end. And I got some help from the operations team in terms of just making sure that the data is kind of placed correctly and all the rest of it, because my mind is configured slightly differently to an engineer's. I don't have any coding background, right? But yeah, on the whole, it's been a very positive experience and I love that it doesn't seem to be any kind of limit to it. Like you can take it further and further and further and integrate the system more and more into the everyday tasks and such.
Yeah, you've probably, touched maybe, 30-40% of the product. And that's also, you don't need to use everything of Ashby, right? Like we have all of that product. Like if you're not doing a lot of sourcing, you still have it. Like you can, if you want to,
you can activate it whenever you need it. It's there, but
exactly.
you
It's
don't
not
have
then
to.
like tiered. And like we believe that if you're, a talent, like a team that does talent acquisition should have these like table stakes, should have that sourcing capacity, should have that scheduling capacity, should have that analytics capacity, and have a great ATS, right? That's the basic and that's the core. And yeah, often you don't use everything of it, but like maybe at some point, your C-level will ask you like, hey, Nix, show me X or Y and slice it
Show me the
by
data.
time frame,
Yeah.
and then you can actually bring that data really quickly to your C-level. And obviously this is more important later on, right? Like more like when you're a little bit more mature company, like recruitment metrics become very important, right?
Absolutely.
So we are there for like when you're still like small company, sourcing like maniacs, like trying to build the top of funnel, doing great like job postings, all that stuff, to all the way kind of like later stage, very rack ups heavy, like analytics, etc. Right? So we're there for any startup really, in what size or form.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. Great chat.
Yeah, very welcome. Thanks for having me.